My name's David Carman. I'm going to be the moderator for today's panel. I hope you're as excited about our panel as I am. Thanks to Dun Bradstreet, we have a bunch of crowdfunding experts who are eager to share their knowledge and wisdom and experience with you today. I assume that most of you are up to date with what's going on in the crowdfunding space, but just in case, last year a total of $2.7 billion was raised globally via about 1 million crowdfunding campaigns. And this year the experts are expecting that about $5 billion is going to be raised. Currently there's about 800 crowdfunding platforms around the globe, and that number is growing every day. And as we see here, crowdfunding has already begun to penetrate Chicago. Len and a number of entrepreneurs in Chicago are already starting to raise money via crowdfunding. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to the panel, have them introduce themselves, and then after that I'm going to turn it back to you. I'd like to find out why you're here today and what you're trying to get out of our panel. So, Katie, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Katie Olson. I am with World Business Chicago. I'm here today because we launched a partnership with Kickstarter in April, along with the mayor's office, to provide Kickstarter as a platform for small businesses in Chicago. So we featured 11 small businesses and helped them build Kickstarter campaigns to see if it was an applicable tool for small businesses in Chicago.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Avi, how about you?
Hi, I'm Avi, and I'm a Kiva representative here in Chicago. Kiva is a crowdfunding website that basically connects socially minded lenders with entrepreneurs in more than 60 countries. Kiva has historically worked with international borrowers, but about a year and a half ago, we launched a new pilot project called Kiva Zip, and its aim is to provide interest-free small business loans to entrepreneurs in the United States. And what's kind of new about this initiative is that it uses a lending model based on community relationships. So let's say there's some entrepreneur who wants to open up a coffee shop but can't get loans from a traditional source like a bank. However, that entrepreneur probably knows people in his community, maybe his church pastor, maybe someone from his local community development organization who can vouch for him and attest to his character. So the idea behind Kiva Zip is that entrepreneurs can basically get someone from their community to write an endorsement for them on our website, which essentially acts like a public character reference that our lenders can use as a trust mechanism to do the lending. And for the first loan, entrepreneurs can get up to $5,000, and for subsequent loans, it can go up to $50,000.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Len?
Hi, everyone. I'm Len Kendall, co-founder of SentUp. We're a tool that helps content creators, whether writers, podcasters, artists, photographers, raise money for themselves on their own website, with half of that money going to charity. And we launched our company using IndieGoGo as our platform. The video you saw earlier was the video we used to entice people to contribute to us. Unfortunately, it's down now, so if you just saw that video for the first time and go to that URL, you won't be able to contribute, but please come to our site.
Okay, thanks, Len. And Kate?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Drain, and I'm here from IndieGoGo. And IndieGoGo is the global trusted crowdfunding platform that empowers people to fund what matters to them. And so we have thousands of campaigns start every week that raise millions of dollars and brings it to places across the world. And one of our greatest markets is Chicago. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm originally from Chicago. My mom is here in the audience. Thanks for having me.
Okay, how about a round of applause for our panelists? Okay, well, I'd like to ask you, the audience, now a few questions. How many of you are entrepreneurs? Oh, wow. Okay, most of you. How about giving yourself a hand? You guys got a lot of guts, I'll tell you. Yeah. I forget who it says, some well-known guy, I forget his name, he said that entrepreneurs are a rare breed. So congratulations. How many of you are currently seeking capital? Most of you, okay. And how many of you are currently seriously thinking about crowdfunding? Oh, most of you, okay. How many of you know somebody who's already crowdfunded? A number of you. And how many of you have already crowdfunded yourself? Oh, okay, you probably know more than I do. Nice, okay. Okay. Well, before I turn it back over to the panel, I'd like to set some context for our discussion, because the word crowdfunding gets bandied about quite a bit. And quite frankly, it's not a new concept at all. It's actually a very old concept. How many people here have ever given money to a charity? Anybody? Your local school or alma mater? Okay, anybody when they pass around the hat at church give money, right? Right? How many, who here's crowdfunded a political campaign? Hardly anybody. You probably don't like the product. Okay, well. But the fact of the matter is it's a pretty basic concept. How many people here know that the Statue of Liberty was crowdfunded back in 1884? Anybody? Okay. Joe Pulitzer of Pulitzer Prize fame, he put an ad on his newspaper trying to raise money to build the Statue of Liberty. And in 6 months, he raised about $100,000 from about 125,000 donors. So if you do the math, it's about an average donation of 80 cents. But he was lucky. Back then, he had that platform. Very few people did. Fast forward to today, and we've had some big game changers, one of them being the internet, right? So now virtually any of you, any of us, anybody on the planet can set up a website and broadcast what you're looking for, not just to your friends or family or your community or the US, but the entire planet. And that in and of itself is a game changer. So you see already a lot of money being raised, mainly now through donation crowdfunding. But this could get a whole lot bigger than it is right now. The second big game changer is the Jobs Act. How many people are familiar with the Jobs Act? Okay. Obama signed it into law last April 5th. And that's a game changer because it allows what's called investment crowdfunding. There's mainly two types of crowdfunding. Donor, and where you get either nothing back, or you might get a perk or reward, or maybe they pre-sell the product, you get the product when it's finished. And then there's investment crowdfunding where there's a security involved, such as a loan or a share of stock. Those are the two main types of crowdfunding. And this Jobs Act is going to make it legal to engage in investment crowdfunding for you. And what that means is you're going to be able to go after what are called non-accredited investors. How many of you are familiar with the terms accredited investor and non-accredited investor, and you know the difference? Critical. Accredited investors means that in the last 2 years you've made about $200,000 or more of income, or you have a net worth of about $1 million or more, not counting your home, okay? There's about 6 million accredited investors in the United States right now. Not bad. But right now, for people 21 and older, there's about 220 million Americans. That's a huge market to tap for funding, and that doesn't count overseas. And with the Jobs Act, you can not only raise money here in the States, but you can also raise it overseas. They can't, foreigners can't raise money themselves, but they can invest in your company. So if you take the internet and you combine it with the Jobs Act, where now you can put up your site and go after zillions of people on the planet to fund your enterprise. And those two game changers together are, some people are calling that revolutionary. So if somebody tells you they're crowdfunding, you might want to ask them, well, you're going to know off the hand that most what they're talking about is online crowdfunding, and you might want to ask them the following questions. What crowdfunding portal are you using? They call it a crowdfunding portal, a crowdfunding intermediary. It could be called a website or a site or a platform. What portal are you using? Is it IndieGoGo? Is it Kickstarter? Is it Kiva? Number two, what type of crowdfunding are you engaging in? Is it donor-based or is it investment-based? Then number three, if it's donor-based, you might ask them, what do they get? Anything? Or is it based on perks and rewards? They might get a T-shirt or a mug or other nice perks and rewards. Or is it a pre-sale where they get the actual product? Or number four, if it's investment crowdfunding, then ask them, is it debt or equity? And last but not least, ask them, are you going after accredited or non-accredited investors? So I hope that kind of clarifies what we mean by crowdfunding, because you know, if you're passing around the hat at church, that's a crowd. A crowd could get together for any reason and give their money. That's so-called crowdfunding. But for all practical purposes, when we talk about crowdfunding, we're talking about raising money online, and it's either donor-based or investment-based. And if it's investment-based, you're going after either accredited and or non-accredited investors. So I hope that kind of clarifies the terrain for you. So now I'd like to turn it back over to the panel. And why don't we start with Len? We first want to start talking about, you know, should you crowdfund? What are the advantages and disadvantages? So Len, what was your thought process before you decided to crowdfund CentUp?
Sure, so I think the biggest decision you have to make is what do you want to use crowdfunding for? So for us, it was either A, use the money to build or expand on a product, or B, use it essentially as a market test or a pre-sale. So in the former option, you know, basically you have an idea, you think it's really great, you don't have the resources to build it. Crowdfunding is an option where you can basically tell a lot of people, here's what I want to create, and I want you to help me be part of it, and you're going to be incentivized through early access or through great rewards or whatever it might be. And the latter is the option we took, which is basically offering a product that is either near completion or is already completed but not yet released, and trying to gauge, is there interest in that? A lot of the most successful crowdfunded campaigns were actually pre-sale. So people were putting down $50, $100, $200, and they were getting something when it was ready. When you see, some of those famous examples of someone crowdfunding, a watch or building a museum or whatever it might be, they're buying a piece of something, and that's the route we wanted to take. So with SentUp, we essentially were offering people kind of first access to use our product. And for us, it was great. We raised $18,000. We tried to have a very moderate goal that was achievable, and one that we knew would be a really powerful talking point down the road when we talk to investors, when we talk to publishers and even charities, to show them that there were hand raisers out there that were interested in supporting and actually being a customer of what we were building.
So even though you're crowdfunding, your number one goal wasn't to raise money, it was more to validate your product and see if there's demand, right?
That's right.
Interesting. Kate, what type of reasons do you see people coming to IndieGoGo for? Why are they crowdfunding? Does it sync with what Len did?
Definitely. We see things running the gamut. By breaking it down into, I thought you've segmented it very well, but for people who are raising money and also using it as a way to test demand and use it as a piece of marketing collateral. Is it okay if I quick share a story?
Sure, go ahead.
So I actually how I came to IndieGoGo, I have a small business myself. It's called the Can Van. It's a mobile beer canning service for craft breweries. So we roll around the Bay Area, we can people's beer, we leave it with them, we drink some beer with them, and then we drive away. Not at the same time.
Sounds like a good company.
Yeah, it's fun.
Would anybody crowdfund that company?
And so I learned about IndieGoGo, we put it up on IndieGoGo in October 2011, before crowdfunding was as prevalent as it is today. I mean, there was so much interest. I'm so excited. But so we started in 2011 because we had a very small, modest goal. We just needed $10,000 to fund our trailer. And we raised $4,000 out of $10,000. But what we got out of this was this great exposure that we would have never had we not put it up on a platform. So because of our campaign, so we were featured in Fast Company 4 months before we were operational. Wow. Like it's we had nothing. We had an idea and a business plan, and we were featured in Fast Company. Our largest investor found us because we were featured in a campaigner roundup, and so she only invests in boozy enterprises owned by women, and we fit that very unique niche. She's like, oh, there are 3 women who own this beer canning service. I would love to invest a large sum of money in them. And we would have never had access to her had we not and it's courageous to put your story up on crowdfunding. Like, it's courageous to put your story up and ask people for feedback through dollars. And people were willing to vote with their dollars and say that they wanted to see more of it. And that's what we see every day, are people being courageous, being fearless, putting their story out there to the world and having amazing things come back to them.
So it sounds like you already, at that point, had a major advertising campaign and you weren't even started.
Exactly, and we didn't even know that, and it helped us develop our brand voice. There were so many things that weren't related to the money that we were able to receive in return.
I'm just curious, at that point, how much money had you spent on your company, do you remember?
We had spent, no, it was all sweat equity.
Oh, okay.
We were very lean.
Okay.
We're a very lean company.
So about nothing, spend no money, and already you're getting some nice traction because of crowdfunding.
True.
That's great. That's great. What other possible reasons might somebody want to crowdfund? Anybody?
Well, I think the best thing about crowdfunding is it really makes the allocation of resources much more democratic. So for example, I have met so many artists in Chicago who want to do a new startup. But if they go to a bank or other traditional financing sources, they don't really get it. But there are so many artists in Chicago area that would want to, donate or loan or invest in entrepreneurs who are doing art, that I think everybody gets a shot at, going forward with their business.
Okay, thanks. Katie, you want to talk about why you guys are doing what you're doing with Seed Chicago?
Sure. So we had sort of we wanted to bring the crowdfunding sort of trend to small businesses in Chicago. And there's just been such an exponential growth in the industry that we thought it'd be a great opportunity for small businesses in Chicago to find an alternative source of financing. And I think a lot of what you guys have said is really resonating with me. So we launched, we helped 11 businesses in Chicago build Kickstarter campaigns to kind of test the concept. And 5 of the 11 were successfully funded. So we raised about $51,000. So, meeting Kickstarter's average about $10,000 per project. And I think that, one of the lessons that we learned from it is that, and to think about when you're building your Kickstarter campaign is that, maybe you don't want to seek the full amount for your business, but it is a really great sort of marketing tool. It's a great way to think through, who is my network, who believes in me, who would be interested in helping us get off the ground, and kind of utilizing it as a marketing tool. And the thing I think, which is interesting about Kickstarter's model, and one of the reasons I think that Kickstarter felt like a good fit for small businesses, was this idea of the incentives. So with Kickstarter, if you pledge $25 to a coffee shop, you might get your, a free cup of coffee for a week or something like that. And so I think it's a really cool way to sort of engage with the people that you hope will be your clients. And I think part of our mission at World Business is this community engagement piece. We really want Chicagoans to engage with their community and to support small businesses because they're in their community, they're growing their community. So the incentive piece really helps tease that out.
Okay. Well, it seems like there's multiple advantages to crowdfunding, the most obvious being it's a source of capital. It might be your capital of last resort for some startups or small businesses. Len, you mentioned and also Kat, how powerful it is to marketing and spread the word and let everybody know what you're up to. And also, it seems to me it's just a great way to get resources. Like, can you find talent that way? Strategic business partners, maybe get media, attention, all sorts of things. What about the disadvantages of crowdfunding? Kate, I think your boss, the founder and owner, I forget his name, but he gets this question asked him all the time. You have to worry about somebody stealing your idea.
That question does come up a lot. And also for me, I head up our design technology verticals, and so often, and also even for, so the small business, the can van, like we will use this is a pretty relevant example. So we were the first small business, or we were the first business to can our beer, or to serve the craft beer market by canning their beer and then driving away. And so we had talked about this a lot beforehand, be like, do we put our idea out there? Should we expose people? What if everybody wants it? We're like, we are an open community. We want to support craft beer. If other people want it, it's cool. So it came down to the specifics of how much do we share? We're like, okay, the line is we are not going to tell them how large our trailer is. Like, we're not going to say that it is a 10-foot trailer. That's where we're drawing the line. But for everybody, it's different. Like, you shouldn't give away your special sauce. Like, don't give away what your code base is. Don't give away, like, whatever it is that is core to your business of what makes it super unique. That's what's going to engage people and what's going to make people want to contribute to your campaigns is because you're going to deliver your message in this authentic and engaging way. And people are going to be people are passionate about participating in what you're building, and you're going to most likely offer something that they're interested in receiving in return. Because we found, so the 3 reasons why people contribute are because of people, because they have a personal connection, they like that person, either they know them directly. 30% typically comes from the first 30% comes from your inner friends and family. The second, pride and participation, because they want to support you, or they want to support what you're building, they want to tell other people. And then 3, because of what you're offering in exchange for a contribution.
Is it common, have you seen this happen, where ideas are being stolen, or is this kind of a rare event?
I mean, at the end of the day, you are putting your idea up on a global platform that has a global audience. We just had a campaign launch today that is the world's first tricorder, and I didn't know what that was. Does anyone watch Star Trek? So do you guys know what a tricorder is? Rad, okay. So it's tracking someone's biometrics, and so they put their idea out there, but at the end of the day, they're keeping the core of it to themselves, but 48 countries have already contributed to this campaign since it launched this morning at 6 a.m. And so 48 countries have been exposed, at least, to this idea.
Wow.
And you should be aware of that when you do launch a campaign, because it does have it takes a mind of its own at that point.
Okay, but overall, how many campaigns have been executed thus far on IndieGoGo?
We have thousands of campaigns that launch every week, and millions are distributed every.
And how often does somebody get their idea stolen?
I don't know if I've ever heard of.
Really? Okay.
I don't.
That's good to know, because I think that's a big fear of a lot of entrepreneurs. So,
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about some of the disadvantages of. Well, one would be, possibly, your idea getting stolen. Any other disadvantages to crowdfunding?
I mean, I think a short-term disadvantage, but maybe a long-term advantage, is that you put up a campaign and you want to raise $50,000 and you end up raising $2,000, and you very publicly had this failure, which is a disadvantage because you feel disappointed, and
Sure.
maybe you can't pursue this business as quickly as you wanted. But maybe that's also a revelation that this isn't the right business to be going into, and maybe you just prevented yourself in the long run from borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, going into debt, those types of things.
I like your optimism. That's good.
Yeah, chipper. But entrepreneurs often will start several companies in their lifetime, and some of them will succeed and some of them won't. And if you can do that and avoid a lot of risk, both for yourself, your family, and your friends and your investors, crowdfunding is a great platform to run that experiment.
Okay. I mean, I think basically you have this huge focus group that's going to give you great feedback about whether or not, and tell you how you could even iterate and improve your product, right?
And they're voting with their dollars. They're voting with something that's tangible.
Real. Yeah, no. And I have a problem with the word failure. I don't view, I think an entrepreneur is like a scientist. You're just conducting experiments. And experiments don't fail. You're testing out hypothesis, and if this doesn't work, you go on to the next thing. So, but anyway, the VCs even the VCs, you did get $2,000. That's something. I know there's one VC I know, he will not invest unless you have at least $1 of revenue. So $2,000, that's 2,000 times $1. That's not bad. That still might work out.
It's also sort of changed the dynamic. I mean, 10 years ago, you might expect somebody to have this 30-page business plan and throw it on the desk, and the venture capitalist is going to read it and analyze it and have their analysts look through it. And a market test is sort of more powerful than a 30-page business plan, which really is a hypothesis and not an experiment.
I mean, there's different viewpoints on that. Some people think the VCs are threatened by crowdfunding, but I think it's going to be a benefit to them because they can just sit back and say, let's see if you can raise money, number one, and validate it. But number two, if you cannot run a successful crowdfunding campaign, why would I think you can run an overall successful business, which is more demanding than just taking care of your finances? So that's the way I would tend to look at it. Okay, so let's say you decide you want to crowdfund. How do I go about picking the portal? Which one? I mean, there's about 800 portals in the world right now, and they're adding a new one every day. What are some of the criteria that you want to use in order to pick your portal?
I would say one of the advantages of Kickstarter is the Curated page program. So that's what our program, Seed Chicago, is part of. Kickstarter gave us a curated page, which basically they grant administrative access to a city. There's a number of cities. Chicago, ours is the official Chicago one. Salt Lake City has one. New York City has one. But also organizations like Sundance has one. So if Sundance is a good example. If you are a small filmmaker and your film gets picked up by Sundance, you're part of a page with other films, and so you sort of get this aggregated attention to it. So I think that's a nice advantage of Kickstarter, is that you can sort thematically, you can sort geographically to kind of see, so it helps people who would be likely to fund to kind of find you based on those kind of categories. And with the Curated page program, you get that added benefit of it's been vetted by Sundance, or PRX has one for independent radio. So it's sort of, it gets that like additional stamp of approval. So that's kind of a cool advantage of Kickstarter, I think.
So Len, I'm just curious, when you were crowdfunding, how many sites did you consider before you decided on IndieGoGo?
We looked at about 10 or so,
okay.
I would say we only seriously considered IndieGoGo and Kickstarter at the end.
Okay.
We knew going into it, though, regardless of the platform, that 99% of the work was going to be on us. We could have, we could have crowdfunded on our own site too.
Sure.
But we sort of analyzed, if we're going to put in so much work, where can we make a bigger dent?
Sure.
And we felt that with IndieGoGo, we had a higher likelihood of being featured, of standing out in the crowd, and also just kind of looking at their community, whereas Kickstarter sort of focuses often more on objects that sell or even the arts. IndieGoGo had a very strong social impact bent, and the community that spends their time and money there seemed to be more appropriate for what we wanted to do.
Okay. Kate, do you want to say a little bit about one of the IndieGoGo's features, the GoGo Factor, and how they can help entrepreneurs?
Yeah, when IndieGoGo was founded, it was launched in January 2008, and our founders were very strongly ideas of they're not going to create more gatekeepers in the world, so anybody who wants to raise money should have the opportunity to do so. And so they created a platform where there's no application process, you can get started right away, and the way that our promotion works on our platform is through the GoGo Factor, which is a funny name for saying that it's a merit-based algorithm that tracks the activity of a campaign, and based on the activity from the contributor side and from the campaigner side, that's how you get featured in our social media feed, that's how you get featured on our newsletter, in our homepage. It's not human curated, so knowing me will be nice because I would like to know you, but it doesn't necessarily help you to get on our homepage or anything else. It's because people will vote with their dollars and with their eyeballs that they want to see more of what you are doing, and so that's what we respond to because it's a more market-driven approach.
And Len, talk a little bit, that was a big catalyst for your campaign, the GoGo Factor, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah, it really was. We raised about $4,000 in the first week or so, friends, family, close people in our network. And then for the next few weeks, we kind of just grinded away. We were very active, thanking our donors, making sure we were pumping out lots of content. And the needle wasn't really moving, even though on the back end we knew people were visiting us and we knew we were kind of getting points with the GoGo Factor. And ultimately, it led us to be the campaign of the day and get featured in IndieGoGo's email, which goes out to lots and lots of people. And we literally got $10,000 in donations that day.
That one day.
In that one day. Wow. Yeah, I mean, actually, I was in Las Vegas on vacation. I woke up a little bit later, and I just checked my phone, and there were 40, 50 emails, with donations ranging from $5 to $200, and I wanted to know what the heck happened. I thought maybe, like Justin Bieber tweeted about our campaign or something. So all that hard work paid off, but it took a lot of work. People think that if you, basically kind of try to get the attention of Kickstarter or IndieGoGo and they feature you, the work is done for you, but really it took 2 to 3 hours collectively from our team of working on this campaign and marketing to get where we got.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into best practices because you're not just going to pick your portal, set up your site, and then the money's just going to come magically cascading in. You said how many hours and how many people were working on your crowdfunding campaign?
So we had 5 people, on the team, and collectively, we would put together videos, do write up notes, do fun projects. I mean, we did a lot of PR, reaching out to publications that wanted to write about us. And oddly enough, most of the time when we pitched them, they would not respond. But then 4 weeks later, a different reporter from the same publication would reach out to us. So, like Kate, we also got featured in Fast Company before our product launch.
Oh, okay.
It was very rewarding to have that happen. But yeah, it took a lot of work. It is not a cure-all to raise money. It's going to take you far more effort. And if your time is worth, say, $20 an hour, you're going to spend a lot more money than you probably make on the platform.
Wow.
But it's a good marketing vehicle, so it can be worth it.
So you said there were 5 of you, and you were putting in an average about 2 to 3 hours a day. So if you're like a solopreneur, if you're the only founder of the company, you may not be able to handle this campaign by yourself, no?
Unpaid interns are always a good option.
Unpaid interns, okay.
Pay them with experience and whatnot. But it doesn't have. It really depends on what your campaign is about. Ours is a very service-oriented, community-driven project. Mm-hmm. If you have something that's really fantastic, like a book or a movie or something like that, it might sell itself a little bit more. It really just depends on what your campaign's about.
Just to that best practice, what we found is that having team members, it helps lend additional social capital and social credibility. So we found that teams that have campaigns that have teams of 4 or more people raise on average at least 80% more money.
Wow.
And it's because you have, like, not only then is it my network and Len's net, so say all 5 of us are on a team together, you have the combined power of all of our networks, like, feeding into each other, and all of us our names are associated with it, and our accounts are associated with it, and so it lends credibility for one, and then 2, our networks are associated with it as well. So the more team members, and putting your pictures up as well, that again is another way to add credibility. So just pro tip.
Well, let's talk about videos, because some sites require it when you apply, and some sites, it's up to you. How important are the videos?
We found that if you have a campaign, you raise on average 114% more money than a campaign that doesn't. And that's not, and it doesn't have to be a really flashy, like, Len, your campaign was beautiful. Your video was beautiful. But it doesn't have to be as snazzy. I hope it's okay I use snazzy. It doesn't have to be as snazzy as Len's. It can be more lo-fi. Like, we made our video completely on a flip cam. And Lindsay, our co-founder, she was the one who edited it. Because at the end of the day, it's your ability to sell yourself and your dream, and to make it and to tell it in a way that's compelling for other people, to incite them to action. And so it's more about your authenticity and your transparency than it is about the splashiness of it all.
Okay. So in conclusion, would you say it's critical to have the video? That you really should do it, or,
I mean, it's everyone's decision.
Okay, because what I've read is they're saying that if you're not going to make the video, from my road is really don't bother. It's that important to have some personal touch and really.
But I think too that having a video, like, I think one of the things that's great about crowdfunding is that it kind of gets you to organize, like, your social media tools. And I think having a video is like something every small business should have anyway. Just to, in a sort of digital age, like, it's important to have these tools, and it's important to think about, like, how you're using Facebook, how you're using Twitter. And I think one of the cool things about added bonuses of using crowdfunding is that it helps you organize all of those materials and practice using them.
Okay.
So even if it's not what drives your campaign over the edge, I think it's something that you work as an organization to kind of pull all of that together.
Okay.
And to that, like, we found a lot of campaigns, and I might be over-speaking, but that campaigns, you can use it as somewhat of a commercial for for your business, and then splice on the end to have your ask.
Right.
And so it has both components. So is that what you get? The
Yeah.
ask was like at the end.
Yeah,
it
was definitely very purposefully filmed that way so that we could use it for IndieGoGo, but that bit at the end has now been chopped off, and we just kind of use it as a commercial, so it worked out perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about social media? What are some of the best social media practices that you should be using to raise your money?
I think that for us, the successful campaigns, like Twitter was the biggest one. Just saying, like, hey, we just got a $100 donation. Let's see if we can, like, triple that today. And just, like, constantly kind of keeping people in the loop. And getting other people in your network to post on Twitter, then kind of extends your network. So I think that kind of, like, real time gets people sort of excited to stay involved.
Okay.
And we found that, so obviously the highest conversion rate is face-to-face communication. Like, you guys are here together, be like, oh, have you heard of my campaign? Rad, you should contribute to it. Oh, it's so fun. So obviously that's number 1. 2 is email. Email is the second highest conversion rate. Third highest conversion rate is Facebook, and 4th is Twitter. And so just keeping in mind, and LinkedIn, I don't know where LinkedIn is an important tool. I just don't know where it ranks. But so definitely use your social media, because that's you, and that's what, someone gave me the feedback that they're like, if at the end of your campaign your network isn't sick of hearing about your project, then you've probably done it wrong. And I take that as you will.
Now, Len, for you, the blogging was the most effective technique, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. I agree with everything Kate said, and for us, just to kind of add on to that list, guest blogging was really powerful.
Guest blogging.
Yeah, so writing to websites that already have a built-in audience and asking them to talk about a topic that is relevant to their audience, but also to yours. So we did a lot of guest blogging, and we wouldn't necessarily go to a publisher and say, hey, we want to write an article about SentUp. That's sort of blatantly just shilling. But we might write about the state of the publishing industry, or how nonprofits have been using technology in the last 3 years. So kind of tangentially related to what we're doing, and there's a nice link at the bottom, of course, to our IndieGoGo campaign, but it's sort of a subtle way to drive traffic and build SEO. So that's something that was really great for us. Totally agree on email. And the other thing about just using social media, it's not so much the channels as much as the network. So a lot of people think that they're going to use their individual social network to share their campaign, but it's really about incentivizing your network to share it with their network. So in our case, we put together lots of funny videos and pictures and featured our donors because we knew that at least half of them would see it and get jazzed about it and then tweet about it. So that helped kind of us not burn out our network because other people were talking about it, and also kind of created this everlasting excitement for people who were donors, who were kind of waiting, like, oh, when are they gonna do my name? When are they gonna make something for me? And we still do it till today. We've continued to do it after the campaign.
So it sounds like the constant communication with your donors is critical, and that you're really building one big network constantly. You're just trying to leverage everybody's network, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, if you take their money and then ignore them, then when something goes wrong, and it will, they're not going to be as forgiving. But if you actually kind of showcase who you are and have personality, then when things go wrong, they're going to be understanding, they're going to give you feedback, and they will be your best supporters.
Now, you did have a kind of a serious glitch there, though, with IP, right?
A little bit, yeah. We had a temporary issue with patent that paused our campaign. And we were really afraid, actually, that our community was going to get upset at the fact that, what's going on? Did we just lose all of our money? Why is this happening? But literally, not a single person was, upset about the fact that the campaign was paused temporarily. And when it went back up, people were thrilled about it, and we got through it. So kind of a perfect example of how you have to build that relationship.
I got you. How important is press coverage in the grand scheme of things? Anybody? Is that key to having a successful campaign?
I think for us, definitely for our 5, in our pilot, it was really critical. And I would second what you were saying about blogs as well. We published something in Bills in Chicago that had hundreds of views, and that was exactly, it's the audience that we were hoping to tap into, people who care about building something in Chicago. And I think too that we got so much great media coverage that it really started a conversation. We had a piece in Atlantic Cities about Kickstarter urbanism, and we noticed a huge spike in sort of people backing campaigns after that because they wanted to kind of help us with this pilot to see if it is a viable tool for cities. So I think it's really critical if you can somehow get, whether in a blog or a local like a local paper or something like that. It also adds to like the credibility of your campaign. So.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. A lot of our Kiva Zip lenders who have been successful have their own Facebook page, even websites, and they just put in the Kiva Zip campaign on their website, and all of a sudden they get a lot of hits. And they fundraise much faster compared to someone who does not have a website, for example, or a Facebook page. So it's definitely very critical to have some presence online.
Okay, great. All right, how about a round of applause for our panel?